What's up, you guys? Welcome back to the Coachable Podcast. You're in for a treat today because I have my new friend, Lesley Logan here, who's a certified Pilates teacher, habits and mindset coach, and the founder of onlinepilatesclasses.com. She is also the host of the Be It Till You See It podcast. And I'm just so thrilled to have you to talk all things mindset, entrepreneurship, health and wellness. Welcome to the show.
Thank you for having me. I'm so excited to chat with you. Any excuse to chat with you, actually, I'll take.
Well, 2021 taught me and brought me a lot, but some really critical relationships in my life through a program that I'm involved in and you're involved in called Brand Builders Group, who I'm going to be talking to the founder of in a couple weeks. So you guys will get to learn all more about brand builders. But that's how Lesley and I got connected initially. And it shows me and reminds me the power of community and the power of getting around like-minded people, because everyone I have met through that community is just like you, are people I just like, I could hang out with you, I can talk business with you, I can talk health and all the things that I care about. And so that just nourishes my soul in the best way. And I just want to spend this time getting to know you personally a little bit. Obviously, you do a lot in your businesses, multiple businesses that you run, but like, take us back a little bit. Like, how did you get to this point in your entrepreneurial journey? Like, what is that? What were the key things that led you to kind of what you do today? It's so funny
that you're asking me that, because I was just thinking, I was actually listening to one of your podcasts, and you asked the guest a question about like, how did you get started? And I was like, how did I get started? Like, what was So what I'll say is I didn't come from a family of entrepreneurs. I didn't come from like even seeing possibility that I have today. So if you're listening to this and you're like, no one in my life has ever done this, how am I going to do this? Like the reason my podcast is called Be It Till You See It is because that's how I live my life. And so I, I went to college. I didn't even go to college that I wanted to go to. I was supposed to move to Hawaii, everyone, and life happened and I didn't get to move to Hawaii. And I was like, I'm not staying here. I grew up in a town called Lodi. No offense to the listeners from Lodi. It's a great town. I just felt like it wasn't for me. And I just didn't feel like I belonged. And speaking of community, I just really was searching for a place that I belonged. And I went to a college that a friend of mine was going to that was accepting applications. And then I got a job working in retail, and like, we're talking like high-end boutique luxury stuff. And it was just like, it wasn't House of Gucci style, but it was so close. And it just felt really fun. And I felt really special, but I was getting these feelings that it wasn't right. And so I one day moved to LA. It was the biggest leap of my life at the time. And that led me to become a Pilates teacher, which is so weird during a recession. So don't let anyone ever let you fear making a leap in your business or in your life during a time of economical crisis, because no one was like, people were canceling their cable. And I'm like, hi, I'm a Pilates teacher. Yep. And I was booking up so quickly. I actually had to quit my safe job, my job that had health insurance and vacation time and sick days, and go all in on this. And it was it's so weird looking back, like how everything lined up to being where I am today, which is not that it was easy from then on out. Like, I definitely spent 3 times in my life where I was without address, and luckily for good, kind people whose couches I could use for some time. But in 2016, I went all in just working for myself, and I was doing anything that people were asking me questions about, or anything that was causing me to go, why is that? Why is this working? What's this problem here? And it took a little bit of nudging from my husband to do things like YouTube. I was like, I'm not going to be on YouTube. But being on YouTube caused this domino effect of me traveling the world to teach people Pilates and starting retreats. And so I'll just say, like, what got me here is just following that curiosity and following this gut that, like, this isn't the right place yet. This is, like, really following that. And so I hope it doesn't sound too woo-woo, but it's definitely like a one-woo life, right? Like, it's just like, where is this leading? And now here we are. I work with my husband. We run multiple businesses, as you said, and we really do. One of the biggest things I'm so proud of is the communities that we built. Like, we have 2 strong, freaking fierce communities of people that support each other. And everything I do has to involve that.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, because we're not intended to do life alone. Like you just said, there were moments in your life where you needed help, you needed support. And then now we're in a position where we're helping and supporting others. And there will always be those moments where we're on one side of that coin, you know?
Yeah.
And it's communities, it's our team, our family, our soul family, whatever we have in our life that picks us up and is like, hey, pats us on the butt, keep going. You're not done. This is not the end of your story. And I know people who are hearing you like kind of share that journey and thinking, I'm at that point, you know, how did you have the courage to step away from the safety and the security of your job that had health insurance and vacation days and all the things to follow that intuitive urge and that gut instinct that's saying, hey, let's follow this. What was going through your head at that point that was saying this is worth pursuing?
So, you know, so I'll tell you this, I'm an ideas machine. So like I have lots of ideas all the time and working with other people, like they say something, I'm like, oh, have you thought of this? Like I am an ideas person. So one thing that I've had to learn to do is like, let ideas sit on a parking lot. And then the ones that like keep coming back, that like keep knocking, they're screaming. So I definitely had to learn the hard way of like not listening to some of those and not listening to my intuition. And that is what led me to not living in a home for a little bit, and like not having a car and all these things. So I definitely will say I listen a lot quicker now because I know what not listening sounds like. So if where you are is like, I'm not sure, like you look back and you'll see the signs. So I had a therapist say like, look back on that bad, like this relationship's first date, what were the red flags? And so I've definitely done that. Like I've looked back in my life and like, what were those gentle nudges that I wasn't listening to? So now I know. So now I know what they're happening. But I tell my communities all the time, you do it scared. So courage is not like doing things without fear. It's doing it because of fear, right? With the fear.
Despite
and
fear.
So yeah, in spite of it. And so something that I'll tell this story. So we have a retreat house in Cambodia, and we do retreats there. Well, pre 2020 twice a year, and we're about to launch a new one soon. But everyone drives a moped, like a scooter, right? And I am like deathly afraid of driving those things. I'm afraid because I've been in a couple accidents, so like, you know, a little afraid of it. But my husband is like, if you're ever here by yourself, you have to get around, and you can't just be paying for tuk-tuks. You have to drive a scooter. Sure. So people drive into oncoming traffic. There's no stop signs, there's no stop lights. Like you just start, it's like, think of like ants, you know, like going around. So there's this, so whenever I have to make a left-hand turn, you have to make a left into oncoming traffic, and then you merge over when you can. And so I just literally, I'll go, okay, here we go. And I scream as I'm on a roller coaster as I'm going. And so I just see like, how do I do everything I do scared? I literally, in my mind, I'm like, okay, here we go. And I press the gas and I scream like it's a roller coaster. And you get to the other side all the time, and it makes me laugh doing it. And that also takes a little bit of fear away. But here's also the thing that you'll learn is when you take even the tiniest action. You don't have to take the biggest action. Like Tori and I were just talking about how we like launched our podcast and we're like inviting people on. Like we didn't start off going, we're doing 100 podcasts. We're like, okay, I'm going to do this one. And before I do that, how do I like log into this thing? And so when you take the tiny step, you will see that the fear dissipates and dissipates a little bit more and dissipates a little more. So courage, you know, getting that courage, I think it's just taking really tiny steps and then screaming your way through it.
Yeah. Yeah. I love that story because it is such a visual representation of what entrepreneurship is like, but not even that, just like trusting yourself when you're at the beginning of that journey of just learning how to become aware of your intuitive nudges and follow them as opposed to repressing them and doing what you think you're supposed to do or what like society or whatever tells you is the safe option. It feels like you're just on a ride and you're like, okay, here we go. For me, it was like, I'm jumping out of a plane and I'm going to build this kind of parachute on the way down. And trust me, I've been screaming the entire way. But you realize like, this is what life is made of. Those moments where you're like, oh, there's energy pulsing through my body. I feel alive. I feel awake. And this is what, like life's not meant to be dull. And I think
No,
so many
and
of us are living dull lives.
Yeah. Well, and I think that's because, we know, we know Gay Hendricks, The Big Leap. That's one of my favorite books. Like if people ask me like, what's your favorite book? Just read The Big Leap and your life will be changed, and then reread it. Okay. Cause like you'll pick up different things, but they talk about like life, it happens outside your comfort zone, right? Well, but here's the thing. Your comfort zone actually gets smaller. So if you are living an adult life, it actually gets a little scarier over time because the rest of the world is expanding. It's moving forward. And so as things change, it gets scarier. And so then your circle gets smaller and smaller and smaller. And so, I think it's really hard if you've never seen people in your life take risks. Mm-hmm. It's really hard. Mm-hmm. But what I'm grateful for is that I did follow that I have to leave this town because I put myself in a situation where I saw other people and I saw people not taking risks and I saw people taking risks. And I, early on when podcasts were like just starting out, someone had me listen to like James Altucher and Tim Ferriss, like way early on. Like I wasn't even like, didn't even consider myself an entrepreneur at that point. It was probably like, early 2006 or 7. And like, but I surrounded myself with people who were taking risks, who were doing things. And so that didn't seem scary. So what I would just say is like, surround yourself with the people that you aspire to be, and you'll kind of pick up on their energy.
Well, but yeah, because what was unfamiliar and scary and uncomfortable and out of your comfort zone for you is normal to someone else.
Yeah.
Like it's just another day in the life of somebody who's intentionally actively taking those types of strategic risks in their lives.
Yeah.
And what I have found and what I teach people is like that's what happens. When that occurs and you realize, oh, what used to scare me doesn't scare me as much, because in my experience, fear is always there. It's not like I get rid of fear. It's just, I learn not to let it dictate my choices. I learn how to come back from, oh, I feel the fear and I have given it a new meaning. Maybe I give it the meaning of I'm excited. I'm anticipating this thing. It's new. It's unfamiliar. But you'll start to realize that what used to scare the shit out of you doesn't scare you as much because you've developed this confidence and this competence. And honestly, what's happened is you've shifted your identity. Because like before I was doing a podcast, before I was a coach, like I was not confident. I was so scared. But now that you have a certain number of episodes under your belt, podcasters podcast, right? So and I've gotten around other podcasters like you, and my identity has shifted as opposed to before.
Well, and like, so a couple things you said, because we talked earlier about like how you trust yourself and then the confidence in yourself. So all of that comes with keeping a commitment to yourself, right? So like, and that's like, you're doing the reps. So you can actually start with like, even though you and I hadn't been podcasters until we were podcasters, the reason we could trust ourselves to do the thing and do it scared and like, it's going to be something someday is because of all the things we did before. But even if you've never like felt like you've actually done a leap before or anything big yet, like if you literally just go, okay, I commit to going for a walk at lunch every day. And let's start with 5 minutes because like I believe in like making it as tiny as possible. I studied with BJ Fogg and Tiny Habits, and you can read that book, everyone. It's genius. So I'm going to do that. Every time you actually do that 5-minute walk, you've just told yourself you keep commitments to yourself. You do things you say you're going to do. And so even though you might not have done the thing that you're about to embark on, you've done other things that you said you're going to do. Yep. And so you can totally trust yourself in that way.
Yeah. And that's finding evidence, right? For, oh, I can do this. And maybe it's not, I've never done it in this area before, but I can look to other parts of my life where I have shown up and I have seen the results of the progress of doing the thing I say I'm going to do. And that's the year for me. Like, and I'm calling everybody in our audience, and again, the coachable community forward into is like, let this be a year of coherence where your internal, like your intentions are what you actually act on. Like that your internal is what you create in your external world, where we're not just getting on podcasts and listening to consume, but we're actually taking the tips that Lesley gives you this year and go out and apply them. Like actually set a date with yourself every single day to make your bed or to go on a walk or whatever and create those tiny habits, because we're shooting ourselves in the foot if we think that just consuming and just having more information and knowledge is going to be enough to get us the results we want to get. It really comes down to taking what you say, and I totally agree with you, is the messy action. Like, do it before you're ready. Like, actually just get started, and you're going to, like, everybody's a beginner in the beginning.
Right. Well, and also, you're going to actually discover how much you want to fight for it. Mm-hmm. So we talked about fear. Fear is like a flashlight. To me, when I feel fear, it's because it's like, I care a lot about this, and I don't want this to not be what I want it to be. And years ago, someone told me there's like 5 fears, right? There's the fear of loss, fear of rejection, fear of responsibility, fear of success, fear of failure. Right. And so all your fears can somehow drive in there. And someone called me out, like, you have a fear of success. And I was like, who would fear success? That sounds so dumb. But I totally did. I had this idea that, like, if my platform succeeded, that my friends who own the other platforms would not like me anymore, or they would think that I was trying to steal something from them. And it's so weird because I have such an abundance mindset, but for whatever reason, I like place this thing on them. So now what I do with my team and people around me and my close friends, I say, okay, I'm doing this thing right now, and I have this is what I have fear of success here. I'm feeling the fears of, or I'm feeling a fear of loss here. And so as we're recording this tomorrow, not the tomorrow you're listening to this, but it'll have already happened in the past. But I am announcing to my community that I'm bringing on new teachers to the platform. That scares the hell out of me because, of course, I felt like, what if people leave? What if people don't like them? What if we lose all of our members because of this? Or what if people get mad? And then I had to go, okay, so really, is everyone going to leave because I brought on 3 teachers? Probably not, right? Like, probably not. And then what? And then what would I do? And so, calling out your fear is really helpful because it does make it sound a little silly. Because in no way am I going to die, right? And to me, the worst thing that could ever happen is like when we'll survive. So when you call it out, it does make it a little easier to lean into it and take that messy action. And then just know that you're going to be an expert in a lot of things in your life, and you're going to be a beginner in something. And then that will create an intermediate level, an advanced level, and then you go back to the beginning somewhere else. And that's just what life is. Because if you're not a beginner again, like, what is the point?
Exactly. That's the progression. And I know that I'm doing something right when I'm at that beginner stage again, because it means I'm trying new things. Yeah. If I'm always the expert, it means I'm doing the same thing over and over and over and over again.
I think then you'll get bored and dull and frustrated. And, so as you mentioned, I'm a Pilates instructor. And so I teach classes online. And one of the things that I love to say to people is, if you can't do something yet, what else can you do? And the reason for that is it reminds you that you are an expert in something. Like, you can do something. And if you can do something else, it will eventually lead to the things you can't do, because that's just how life is, right? And, we also talk about, like, perfect is boring. So if you were perfect at everything you tried, you would be so bored, right? So it's okay to be in practice. And I say those things out loud because it's not because it's easy to me. I'm a recovering perfectionist. I'm a recovering overachiever, and I have to remind myself perfect is boring. Nobody wants to be friends with perfect.
Yeah, because there's so much accomplishment and fulfillment in seeing your progress. I remember when I first started doing yoga, and then eventually got into Pilates. But yoga was kind of my introduction into reintroducing myself to myself and my body. Yeah. And I remember at the beginning, I started doing Bikram yoga. And if you know anything about Bikram, it's like super hot. The first week, like the first class, they were like, just stay in the room. Like, that is the goal. Just stay in the room, because it's such a different environment. The heat, your body's not adapted to it. And then over time, especially at the beginning, I could not do almost any of the exercises. But the thing about Bikram was, it was the same poses, 26 poses over and over again. And so there would be days I could absolutely not do it. And I couldn't do it, but what could I do? Yeah. Right. So I was doing some kind of, alternative. And then one day I tried it, and all of a sudden my body could do it. And there was so much just pride and excitement to see the transformation occur. And that would have never happened if I could just do it out of the gate, And so that
you wouldn't have probably not gone back. No, you've been like, okay, well, that was fine. Not a challenge at all.
Then I was addicted. I was like, I had fallen in love with this process of watching myself evolve and change and expand. And so this makes me want to go into, asking you about your evolution as a Pilates instructor, as an entrepreneur, as building this community to the point where you're bringing on other teachers. Yeah. I can't remember. You'll have to remind me how many students you serve, because it's so many in your.
Yeah, we're over 400 on OPC to date, which is huge for of course, in my wildest dreams when we started it out, like my husband was like doing the Excel sheet. He's like, okay, if we have 1,000 people, like this is how, like all these things. It, just so you know, it is really hard to build a subscription-based service that gets to 400, that gets 100. So, being at the beginning is essential. But so we're over 400 now.
Yeah. So what have been your biggest lessons over the building this community to where it is, to now you're at this place where you're having to introduce, the fact that you guys are growing and expanding? What have been the hardest things about getting to this point, and what have been your biggest takeaways? Yeah.
So these are great questions. Okay. First, not taking things personally. And that's really hard, especially you and I have personal brands.
Yeah.
But people not signing up or canceling is not a reflection of me as a person. It is whether or not my platform is serving their needs, and that's their personal thing. So that's really hard to learn, but you'll learn it quick. Otherwise you're not going to grow because you'll just get stuck in everything happening to you, and it's happening for you. And so there's that. Also, really owning your values. So as I mentioned, community is a value of mine, but also consistency. And one of the things that I see in online platforms, no matter if you're using Peloton or any of the things, right, is there's a churn rate on fitness subscriptions is about 90 days. Pretty much is what it is. And so you got to get paid. If I can get people past the 90 days, I've got them for 1+ years. We've had some members for the almost 4 years we've been around. We're talking, those people were with me when we had no microphone. We used an iPhone. I screamed at it from the floor of my apartment. So we have definitely evolved, but owning my values, in that I was like, how do I create a space that is like going to the gym, that is like going to an actual class at the same time? And I had a lot of people go, well, I don't want to be a member because you're taking the class away. And I'm like, exactly. I am taking the class away. And here's why. You will show up more for yourself if that class is going to disappear, because that class is coming up on Tuesday and it's going to disappear on Tuesday. And so because everyone is taking the exact same class within the same week, when people start to go, oh, I took class this week and I had this amazing aha moment, someone who is going to go, oh, I'm going to do it tomorrow. They'll go, she had an amazing moment. I want to have an amazing moment. And so then they do it. And so we actually have people who use our platform. One of the reasons why it is growing slower is because I don't actually let you just willy-nilly take whatever you want. I want you to feel like you're in community, that you're all taking the same thing. Yeah. So that's a value of mine, is consistency and community, right? So I had to create that in spite and against all the better advice of what was out there. Mm-hmm. And then, we said it already, but that messy action, I didn't wait until I had the money for the mics. I didn't wait until I had a studio. I didn't wait until we had, I was doing this for 5 people for a long time. And let me just tell you, I was so busy and filming for 5 people. And at that time we were charging $5 a week. I was like, I'm making $20 right now, and not even, because I got to pay someone to edit. Yeah. But taking that messy action, those things. And so every time I have to make a decision in the business, I filter it through taking messy action. How does this affect the community and create more consistency for them? Mm-hmm. And in turn, help them connect more to themselves, because just like what you do with breath work and all that you're doing, if we can connect more to ourselves, we're unstoppable. We can do anything.
Yep. Yeah. And our true selves, right? Not the egoic mind that's like, we care what everybody thinks of us and we're only worried about the numbers and we're worried about, I don't want to show up for 5 people. I want to be on a stage speaking in front of thousands, right? That limiting mindset is what holds so many people back from ever getting started.
Well, and also,
so it's like,
not to cut you off, but like, just picture y'all, if you've done 0 and then you're like, I want to speak in front of thousands. Okay. So now picture yourself speaking for the first time in front of thousands of people. You are going to wet your pants.
Trust. It's so funny. And this is, I think just speaks to my kind of evolution over the past few years. One of my last classes in college at the University of Alabama was a public speaking class, which was an elective that I think I had to take. It was a required course. And my mom had to give me a beta blocker. It's like a blood pressure medicine or something to get through that class. And all the kids in the class were freshmen. Like, I remember half the class was like 17-year-old athletes who were just coming in during summer school. And now I speak to so many people like on my show and on social media and now doing keynotes and stuff. But like struggling through that and getting up there and facing those fears and like feeling all of the full spectrum of those emotions when you're first getting started is part of the process. It's part of it. And I think it's what I love about what you do and what you were talking about, consistency and community, and how you chose to do things differently in your community in order to create more of that established like togetherness feel. That's what creates culture in a brand. Because whether you're working for a corporation, whether you have your own personal brand, whether you're building your own business or what have you, like the culture and my experience is, how does it feel to work there? How does it feel to be part of that community? How does it feel to be part of that class? And if everybody feels way disjointed, disconnected, there's a lack of communication, no one knows what's going on, then that's the culture of the community. And I love that you said, hey, I'm not going to do what everybody's doing. And because I value and I know the power of everyone having a collective experience together.
Yeah. I think shared experiences are actually what you get to take with you anywhere. Right. So like, that's like, no one can take your memories from you. Right. So those shared experiences and what I love is listening to our members share their experiences and their stories. And it's beyond what Pilates is, like what you would think Pilates is. And so we have a member who she sent me a message and she said, hey, thanks for reminding me in every class I can do hard things, because today I had a hard conversation at work and I would have normally avoided it. And as soon as I was like, oh, this is gonna be a hard conversation. And that your voice in my head said, you can do hard things. And because every day I show up on my mat to do my Pilates practice and I attempt the hard things and sometimes I can do it and sometimes I can't. I had that conversation and it was hard, but I did it. And at the end of the year, she actually ended up quitting her job and starting another job. And she's like, thanks for shoving me out of my comfort zone. And so, what's that culture like that, I, in my little way, and so those of you listening, like, oh, I'm not doing life coaching, I do this. In your little way, you are changing the world. You really are. So yeah, I'm a Pilates teacher. But I'm making sure that every single person takes Pilates with me leaves a better person and does their life better. And they do that because of the culture and the consistency and the community that they're in. And so, never underestimate the power of what you're doing, because it really does change the world.
It really is. It's like, where am I? Like, how can I infuse my values, the principles that have shaped me as a human being that are like so important to me? How can I fuse that into the work that I do, wherever that is? And what I love about that story is that what you're helping people to do is to create a new association with pain and discomfort.
Yeah.
And you're doing that through the body, right? Like, of when you're in a hold or you're like on that crunch that you just want to quit, it's in those moments where you actually have the visceral sensation of being like, hey, what in the past, when you want to quit, you give up. But this is a moment where you can create a new association where you can go even 5 seconds longer. And that is something you can take away. And we don't always make that association of that link as it it pertains to our business or any other area of our life. But what we're doing inadvertently is creating that self-trust and reminding ourselves we can do the thing that I was scared to do to begin with. And that changes our lives.
It really does. And it's just like, and you know, as you know, like movement is the way that we most heal and we get things out of our body. You know, like you can talk it out, you can breathe it out, you got to move, you got to get those things out. And I would say never ever underestimate the power of whatever movement practice you're choosing, and just create that consistency, but focus on comparing yourself to yourself. And if you mentioned you went to Bikram, and Bikram has those 26 exercises. So as a Pilates teacher, there's a couple different ways you can teach. And one of the ways that I teach is with Joseph Pilates order. And the reason for that is you get to compare yourself to yourself every single time. These are the 34 exercises. And sometimes I omit them because we only have 30-minute workouts, but we do one longer workout every month. But the 30-minute workouts, I'll omit some. But the reason is like you can go, like you get to remember and you get to become an expert in your own body with the different exercises. You get to compare yourself to yourself, and that's how you create confidence. You're not comparing yourself to me. My legs are for days. You might not have long legs. And so the exercise might be easier for you. But like if you, and I think that's what's so unique about finding a practice that works for you. And then instead of trying to be perfect at it, just noticing when you went 5 seconds longer and celebrating that. And I don't think that we are encouraged enough to celebrate those little things. I think a lot of people say it, but a lot of people don't do it for themselves. And you know, your brain does everything based on emotion. And if something makes you feel good, you're going to do it again.
Yeah. Yeah. Well, because we see what we measure. And what's happening when you're doing the same exercises over and over again, whether you know it consciously or not, you're measuring that, your ability to do that exercise or stretch to a certain degree or whatever. And then over time, now you can see the progress because it's up against the same exercise or the same stretch, whatever that you did all the other times before. And this is the power of tracking your progress and creating those habits. Because for instance, like when I was, last year, I was doing a exercise, like a 60-day, training. And at the beginning we tracked all of our statistics, like my weight, body fat percentage, muscle mass, all of that. But also like how many push-ups can I do in a minute? What is my 400-meter run sprint time? And it was my starting point. It's my baseline. But then we tested again 30 days in and 60 days in. But with something like this, where they're repetitively doing the same exercise over and over, like you can actually, you're seeing it right before your eyes. And that's what reignites your momentum and your energy to keep doing it. And I love that. So what is it specifically about Pilates that made you fall in love with it, and why you've been able to like coach and so many other instructors become Pilates instructors? Like, what's the thing that is makes it
I
so
love
amazing?
it. So here's the funny thing. If you're like listening to this and you're like, whatever, Lesley, Pilates is like, you know, that thing ladies who lunch do. I definitely would have said the same thing. And I did. When my friend invited me to a Pilates class in 2005, I said, oh, that's that infomercial workout. That can't work. Like, I can't do it. You know, like I was going through my personal training certification, and I was going to the gym, and I was an ex-athlete, and I was like, no way can those like what I'm seeing on this infomercial change your body. But I needed a friend because I had just graduated college, and most of my friends got married or they moved away, and I was a little struggling with the friends group. So I went because shared experiences, those things matter. And I thought, well, we'll go to this class and then we'll have coffee, and then I'll never have to go to that class again because we'll just go to get coffee, right? This is like me in my controlling world. And in the first exercise, I felt parts of my body I'd never felt before. And remember, I've been searching to belong. That's why I left my hometown. So I've been searching, right? And in that moment, I was like in my body. And I didn't even know, I'd never felt that before. I'm a hypermobile body, but like you could be a tight body, it doesn't matter. Like I never had felt my brain and my body in the same spot. And I was just like, this this I have to do again. So I literally changed my entire, I was a manager of the boutique. So I got to change the work schedule, whatever I wanted. And I changed my schedule so I could go every day. I got this membership and I went every day. And then when I moved, I struggled a bit to find a teacher that I could go to every day. And so I was like just remembering the exercises myself. And this woman goes, why don't you just teach it? So so the reason I really thought I was just going to teach it to pay for my obsession with it, because I was like loving my boutique managing life. I mean, fashion and jewelry and purses was amazing. But what I learned so much is like, we don't have crystal balls, right? We don't have that. But if you can connect to yourself, you are unstoppable. You can face fears. You can be a better parent, a better partner, a better boss, a better person, because you can only give to others when you have given to yourself. And if you are not connected to yourself, how do you connect to others? They say you can't love others if you don't love yourself. But if you aren't connected to yourself, how on earth are you going to love who you are in the body that you have, whatever it is? And so in this weird way, like I'm teaching this method that everybody has these misconceptions around, and I'm on this mission because I know that if more bodies add Pilates into themselves, we have more connected people. We have people who are loving more people and doing bigger things and doing the scary things because they are connected to themselves. And so that is why Pilates. That's why I'm on this mission.
I love it. I'm obsessed with this answer because it's like, you basically what you just said is like, I found my source of power. Like when my brain and my body were in alignment, and that's coherence, that's presence, that's I am actually fully here for my life in this moment and you start to become incredibly aware of how much of your life you have spent in disconnection.
Oh yeah.
And there is a sorrow that happens. It happened for me through breath work, happened through me initially through yoga. It was like, I have been far away from home for a really long time.
And I think like it's important to grieve that a little bit and to honor that. And I remember being really frustrated because at 25, I met a woman who'd been teaching since she was 18. And so she's only 10 years older than me, but she'd had so many more years doing this. And I remember being so jealous. And I just was like, okay, that you like a brain was like, you're never going to change when you found this. But now you have. So what are you going to do with that? And that's like, my husband and I are on this mission, more bodies doing Pilates. And that's because I don't want anyone to have to go 25 years, but maybe you've had to go 40 or maybe you've had to go 70. Who cares? Like also, I'm sure you can attest to this. The moment you are at home, it's almost like time expands, like the moment you are connected, like it's almost like that other part was much shorter and our days are longer in the better way, Yeah.
And if you're listening to this and you're like, what the hell are they talking about? Truthfully, like you might not have experienced this before. Like you likely haven't because those who have are like, oh, I know, I get it. I remember feeling that way. And so just allow this to be kind of a ping your system a little bit to be like, get curious about what do they mean? And whether it's Pilates, because that's definitely one bridge to this type of connection, whether it's breath work, whether it's there's so many different modalities. But what I know Lesley would say, and I will too, is like find your path to this. And I know, like, I want people to know how they can start on this journey if they want to through Pilates. So tell people, like, how could they learn more if they wanted to get involved with what you're doing?
Yeah. So first of all, I love beginners. You're amazing. And you're always welcome with me. We always have an option for you. But very soon we are doing a 1-week program where I'm taking all pie-curious Pilates newbies, people who've thought they've done Pilates that are wondering, like it's confusing and like, there's something there, but you're like, how is she so connected? I was just like, trying to not fall off a piece of equipment. So I do teach classes on all the pieces of equipment. So if you're listening, we have those, but I primarily want to make sure people know that as long as you can lay on the ground and move your arms and legs around, you can do Pilates wherever you are. So this will be a mat-based full body workout in 15 minutes. And you can go to onlinepilatesclasses.com to get more information on that. And we have, like we mentioned, we always have an amazing community, but that what I'm really excited about, because we're going to take you over a week into actually teaching your body each of the exercises that any beginner, any person starting out can do. And then you'll have this 15-minute workout you can do forever, wherever you go. You could do it before you do weight training. You could do it after, do it before a breath work session, just like get those things out before you sit down and breathe. You can do it after a yoga class to like really get your core strength built up. It's always Pilates and, to me, it's not Pilates only or Pilates versus. And that's important if you're listening to this, like, oh my God, I have to add something else in. I don't have time. Like, I just think that it's actually about like just getting some Pilates in versus none. And so if all you can give me is 15 minutes, like I promise you're going to have those life changes, those connections, and then time will expand because you'll have more energy. So yeah, onlinepilatesclasses.com.
Okay. We will definitely link that in the show notes. I've got to get into that. That sounds like something I would absolutely love. So you guys make sure to go check that out. And I know that's happening towards the end of February.
Yeah,
I believe.
February 20th will be the start date.
Perfect. So you guys are listening to this before that's happening, so you have plenty of time to get registered and get in. Lesley, you're amazing. Thank you for hanging out and being here and sharing your story with us. Is there anything you want people to know before we let you go for the day? Obviously, we want people to connect online, pilatesclasses.com, but online with you as well.
Yeah.
What do you want people to know?
Yeah, so you can connect with me at Lesley.Logan on Instagram. I love to hang out there. You can listen to my podcast, Be It Till You See It. I'm going to have Tori on very soon. So you can, if you like loved our vibe, it's going to happen again. And I hope more often. But follow me there. Check out the podcast. Be It Till You See is all about what it is. Like literally, like how do you do it scared?
Yeah. I know y'all are scared. Some of y'all, this is what you need. The courage to take that step, whether it's into a Pilates class, into a yoga class, into doing whatever the thing is that you have set your heart and your mind on this year. We're in a new year. Don't let this year, again, be the year that you're like, I'm going to start that business or do that thing, get in shape, connect to my body. And then you find yourself at the end of the year feeling like, I didn't take the action. This is the year of actually implementing, integrating, applying these tools. And we're all going to do it along with you. So I love you. Thank you for being here.
Oh, I love you. Thank you for having me.
Can't wait to be on your show.
I know. Soon. It's going to be so fun. All right. You're amazing. Thank you for this opportunity.
Until next time, you guys, go check out Lesley Logan on Instagram. And please, 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 if you love the show, you can help me so much by subscribing to our YouTube channel where you can get the full video recording of our podcast, as well as leave a rating and review on Apple Podcasts. This really, really helps our show expand and grow, and we're so grateful when you do this. We love to hear what speaks to you, what you're getting from it, and we just love having you part of this community. So go be coachable this week. We'll see you next week on the Coachable Podcast.